In June of 2015, our president and CEO, Carl Amato, promoted me to my current role of Chief Diversity, Inclusion, and Equity Officer. I was really a little fearful about that because diversity, inclusion, equity can be an emotionally charged topic. And so I really feared that I could lose relationships by taking this role. And so I talked to Carl and I said to him, Carl, you know me, and you know that if I accept this role, we're going to go and we're going to go big. He said, Tanya, I know that about you. We need to be pushed, and I know that you can push us. And so I went to Carl and said, Carl, I've done the research. There's an organization that has a lab called the White Men's Caucus, and I'd like for you to do that. So he looked at me and he said, I'm not going to do that. And I said, Carl, but I really need you to do this work because it will set the tone for the entire organization. And he said to me, Tanya, I'm not doing it. I already understand this. You know my heart. You know what I've done in this organization. I don't know that we need to go through 3.5 days of additional education. So I went back to my next status meeting, walked into his office with my agenda as I usually do, and it was once again on my agenda. And Carl said, we're not doing that. We can do this work ourselves. We don't need to do this. So he said no a second time. There was something inside of me that said, you have to keep doing that. As you think about being courageous, a fear would be that he'd say no, or that he'd ask me to step out of the role. But I kept saying inside of me, this is the time to be courageous. This is the time to be courageous. So the third time I went back to his office, sat down, I had my list, and on my status agenda, it was the White Men's Caucus. So I talked to Carl about it again, and I said, I've really researched this. I've talked to the people at the organization, and I really need you to do this. So he finally said, okay, if you bring them to Novant Health to do the caucus in our market, then I will get 15 other white men and we will participate in the caucus. And that was a real tipping point for our organization. Our group of leaders went off to the White Men's Caucus lab. And when they were heading out to do that, I felt a little bit of hope. And I also felt scared. I felt like if this didn't work out, if they really didn't want to partner with me in the end, that this may not be the role for me or the place for me. And that was scary because I had been here for over 20 years. After the lab, I met with the leaders, and I have to tell you, I felt relieved and I felt encouraged because each of them met with me individually to tell me about how they were going to partner with me in doing this work across the system. It felt like they would have my back. That's so important in this work. And I felt their commitment to go back to their own teams and to do the work. And while I know there still will be resistance, I felt like I had a team of people helping me move the organization through this work. By embedding this work into the fabric of our culture, we have seen remarkable results in our organization. We have seen significant increases in our Net Promoter Score, team member engagement, patient satisfaction, and we've also closed healthcare disparity gaps. In the end, if no one is resisting in your organization, then you're probably not doing the work. Resistance is a real indicator of the important work that's occurring. Everyone is at a different place on this journey. The work requires patience and commitment for the long term. And when the going gets rough, you can't pull away and stop. You have to lean in to continue the work. Even though there is still some discomfort and resistance, we have the courage to talk about it. And that's the real work.